Hey guys, welcome back to another Bachelor Recap live from home. We have so many new exciting details to break down, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Gabby Ganta.
Hi, Fiona. So excited to talk with you today.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited, Gabby, because we finally have some concrete information, you guys, about what went on behind the scenes that led to Clare being replaced as our Bachelorette. Of course, thank you all for tuning in live. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know if you have any questions. So be sure to let us know what you're feeling in the chat as we stream along. We're going to try to get to as many questions at the end as we can. For now, let's just dive right in because ABC's executive Robert Mills got extremely candid while chatting with Nick Viall for his podcast. He made many revelations, and we're going to break them all down, starting with how Clare planned her dates. According to Rob, Clare insisted that Dale be included on the group date after he got the first impression rose, which the show apparently usually discourages. That's not a move leads are typically allowed to make. He said, quote, I remember at this point, this is where I started to think it's a shame Clare and Dale aren't on Paradise right now because it would have changed everything. They would have been able to go off. They would have been there the entire time. So, Gabby, we obviously broke down that entire crazy episode. In it, at some point, Clare has said to Dale, I wanted you on that date because I can't wait to see you again. What are your thoughts on her standing firm, laying down the law with producers early on and being like, this is what I want, we're going to do it my way?
Totally. I think, because Claire's been on this show already so many times, she really wanted to take the lead in this case. I think in for other bachelors and bachelorettes who are maybe this is their first season or they're, way more of a fresh face, I'm sure they're a lot more flexible with producers and just going along with whatever the storyline is that they decided to do. But in this case, Clare is like, no, this is my time to find my man. I want it as soon as possible. And so we're going to do basically, whatever I want to do with that. I think it's interesting that he brought up Paradise because it totally makes sense that that would be the perfect show for them to be on because, in that case, it's a totally different setup of The Bachelor. The couples are supposed to go off and, couple up and be just with that one person for the entirety of the show. Or if they've found their person, they can literally just leave the beach and then that's it. Claire's been on 2 seasons of Paradise and that obviously didn't work out. So it would have been good in this case. Of course, the producers didn't know that this was going to happen with her and Dale, so they couldn't really plan ahead for that. But yeah, I think that's the whole reason why this season of The Bachelorette is just so much different.
100%. I mean, Clare obviously was going to be a different lead coming into all of this. I think at one point in the interview with Nick, Rob said something along the lines of she has bad luck. Like when she was in Paradise, it didn't work like this. And now, she's not supposed to find the one on day one, and she did. So obviously things got off the rails quickly. But I do think it's interesting that so early on, she was like, my way or the highway, because it really clearly set the tone for what's to come. Rob went on to explain that producers have encountered clear frontrunners in the past. I think that's obvious, right? I mean, everybody has instant connections with different people. It can be clear. He compared the Clare and Dale relationship to other relationships like Andy Dorfman's connection with Josh Murray and JoJo Fletcher's connection with Jordan Rogers. He said, quote, JoJo will be on later in the season. She's going to be filling in for Chris Harrison, and she talks a little bit about it too. That was the big worry at this point, that it was just going to be Dale from episode 1 to episode 10. So JoJo is obviously a beloved bachelorette. I mean, we've known for a while now that she was going to step in for Chris at some point, but I think it's really interesting that they brought her in because I remember JoJo's season. I mean, Jordan was a clear frontrunner from day one. We all had a feeling. I think we all saw it coming. but it definitely wasn't a done deal. And it feels like with Clare, it wasn't excitement about this person. It wasn't like, I have a special place for him. It was like, he is the one, done and dusted, no questions asked. So do you think that sort of stark difference in just tone and attitude is obviously kind of what played into Clare being, cut short?
Yeah, totally. I think in the past we've seen that first impression rose winners do really well for the entire season and usually end up, being the one chosen or being the winner. That was the case with Jordan and JoJo. They are, engaged and almost going to get married now. So they're a success story of the show. We also have Rachel Lindsay and her now husband, Brian. He got her first impression rose when she was the Bachelorette. And then more recently, even with Peter's season, he gave his to Hannah Ann, and they're obviously not together now, but she did end up technically winning and getting the engagement at the end. So I think people just have a really great intuition about this kind of stuff. And even if they're keeping their options open and writing out the whole season until the end, like those people that they first are attracted to and just see this great connection with, they end up staying, throughout the rest of the season. So I think, like you were saying, that was this case with Clare, but she's just in a hurry to find love. She's just ready to be done with all of this. And so, she's going to take that to the extreme in this case.
100%. I mean, listen, not being on The Bachelor, there's something to be said about like when you walk into a room and you meet a bunch of people, sometimes you just get a gut feeling about someone. And that gut feeling typically stays with you. And I think kind of like you were just saying with Clare, she wasn't looking for 10 husbands. She was looking for one husband. And she really leaned into that when you know feeling. So, I mean, guess the writing was on the wall early on. Moving back to the episode we saw just this week, one of the most awkward moments from that episode, maybe from any episode ever, I mean, it was so tough, you guys, was Clare's one-on-one with Zach J. Bachelor Nation obviously had many thoughts about this date. I'm sure all of you watching had many thoughts about this date. And Rob shared his perspective with Nick. He said, quote, "She really was trying on that date. The chemistry wasn't there, and it was just that awkward moment with the kiss. It reads aggressive. As she said, I was triggered by that, whether he meant it or not." So that was, I mean, listen, that was a tough moment all around. I think there was a lack of communication. There was clear confusion, but kind of like Rob said, no matter how you slice it, Clare ended up being uncomfortable in that moment. I think the writing was on the wall about Zach J going home. Now that we've sat with it for a little, Gabby, what are your thoughts on that moment?
Yeah, it was interesting that Rob said, she was really trying on this date. And I think that means a lot because we only get to see so much of the edit and, he was actually there. And so he can speak to it a little bit more about how there just really wasn't chemistry. And so when this moment came down to it, it was just like, okay, let's just wrap this up, But I think, going along with that, a lot of us viewers, we're also quick to judge like weird scenarios like this when we don't really know what went on. And I think we just, in the end have to give it to Clare, who was feeling, what she was feeling in that moment versus what we are seeing. It can be a totally different experience.
100%. I mean, I've been thinking a lot of that episode, there was so much drama crammed into one episode. I've been thinking a lot about like how much more time went into all of those moments. And if it felt overwhelming to us as viewers seeing this much of it, I can't imagine what Clare, producers, the guys were going through when it was all playing out in real time. We have to get to probably the biggest reveal from this interview. I think it's something that we've all been so curious about for such a long time. Kind of has a simple explanation, but I think it's really great to have it on the record, concrete. Rob shared the moment producers knew Clare had to go. He explained it was Clare's behavior after the roast group date that basically sealed the deal. Just in case you need a refresher on that crazy, shocking, uncomfortable date. To recap, Clare was upset. She did not find the roast funny. She was not charmed. She was not into it, especially the jokes around Dale. Afterwards, she obviously had some more time to spend with all of the roasters, and she basically sat them down one by one. And regardless of what else they talked about, she interrogated them about those Dale jokes, what they meant, the meaning behind them, what's going on in the house. She was really fishing for more information. And at the end of the night, she gave herself a rose. She didn't feel like any of them had done anything to deserve a rose. She didn't feel even like just throwing someone a bone that she had at least a little interest in to keep them safe. Nobody was worthy, which of course made the contestants very, very discouraged. And I think probably the most telling moment here is they gave us that shot of Clare walking with producers where she refers to Dale as her fiance. I mean, that to me, as just a viewer, was a clear signal that it was over. And sure enough, that night really sealed it for producers as well. Rob said, quote, "When she didn't give out that rose and she just gave it to herself, that was it. That was really it. That's when we started making the call to replace her." So, I mean, Gabby, at this point, based on what we saw, I wouldn't really have said that there was any hope for anyone else. I mean, what do you think? I feel like if I were a producer, I would have been like, you guys, this is not going to work.
Right. I think the producers are really good at figuring things out, thinking on their feet. They have this situation where, we've been building up to a Clare Bachelorette season. We've been waiting so long for this, and it's kind of like going way too fast or falling flat, and they're sort of don't know what to do with all of this now. So I think, when they first had the thought that they wanted to sort of pivot and do something different, I think they definitely ran with that. And they said, instead of this season falling flat or being cut short, let's like turn it on its head, like make it something really awesome. And it's certainly, done well with Bachelor Nation. People are so excited for this one, and because it's so different. So I think they really took what could have been a bad situation and, just really made it better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, I feel like we're on episode 3? I feel like we've been watching this play out for weeks and weeks and weeks now. It just feels like if they hadn't stepped in and given us something to be excited about, some big twist here, this would have been a slow and tough season to get through, at least in my opinion. Okay, as for Dale and Clare's instant connection, because that's something, I mean, we have analyzed it. Bachelor Nation has analyzed it. Reality Steve has analyzed it. And it just sometimes feels a little suspicious, you guys, depending on how much of a romantic you are, how much you believe in true love. There's a lot of question marks about things, happening before they got there, if they had any communication. But Rob said that Clare made it clear there was no communication before they started filming. He said she swears on her dad's grave that they didn't speak before. He says, I think she was thinking, you still have 6 more weeks. I can't fake it through this. She couldn't do it anymore. I think she was sort of going crazy a little bit, basically saying that in his opinion, Clare's headspace was just like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to have this strong of feelings for one person and continue to play the field with these other guys who, let's face it, we're head over heels for her, and we're making that known. That's a tough spot to be in. I feel like this was the right call. I think you agree, Gabby, right?
Totally. I think, if she would have stayed any longer, then we would have known that, her actions weren't being sincere. We would have been able to see through producers setting things up and making the decisions on her behalf to create an entire season out of this. So, in the end, like, we're all on Clare's team and wanting her to find love and wanting these reality shows to be like a real reflection of people's lives and love, and like hopefully get more success love stories out of the show, I think is what everyone inevitably wants. We also want, the drama because it's such exciting TV to watch. But in the end, like, we want Clare to find love. And so no matter how the season was going to go, we're going to be happy for her with that. And in terms of them not speaking before the show and how she's been so adamant about that, I totally agree with her. And I think it's very possible. I think she did get to look up Dale before, going on the show on his socials and online. So I think that was honestly plenty enough to get so excited to meet him and just like really think he's the one ahead of time, that the excitement just kept building, and once they met, the expectations were there and it just all fell into place.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. I mean, listen, I am a skeptic for sure, but I did a quick Google search on Dale, and he's one of those guys who it's all out there. I mean, forget his social media. You can go to his website and get a really
Mhm.
clear, in depth look at who he is. And I think that's enough. I mean, on paper, he's a total catch. And if you meet him in person and he lives up to that just a little bit, I mean, hello, she clearly was head over
Right.
heels so quickly. Rob also addressed, and this is kind of interesting, the guys losing their patience, because in our recap, we did talk about this. Like, we totally empathize with the guys. As much as you're rooting for Clare to find love, like, at a certain point, I'm wondering what the other guys are doing there. So I can't imagine how they must have been feeling. Rob
Mhm.
said the guys are starting to be in revolt. Those shots with producers that we don't really like to show, breaking the fourth wall, we had to show so you could see what was going through Clare's head. Tayshia will be part of the season starting next week. This will be where, as Chris Harrison says, the Bachelorette will blow up. So I think we were expecting this. Any guy, no matter how mature or hot-headed they are, in this kind of pressure cooker scenario in general, is probably going to have a limit. And it just feels like there was no way for it to not go off the rails at some point. I'm really interested to see if we get, once Tayshia joins the picture, more of these fourth wall behind the scenes moments. I personally enjoyed them. I think I love the behind the scenes tea. I don't know if it's fair to the lead, but I was here for it. What are your thoughts with the guys hitting their breaking point and the producers sort of taking unprecedented steps here?
Yeah, first of all, I'm just excited that he confirmed Tayshia will be coming starting next week. Like, what a great interview get this was for Nick Viall's podcast. Like, we're getting all the behind the scenes with this interview right now. I'm stoked about it. But yeah, I'm so excited for Tayshia to get on. I think the guys needed something else. It just wasn't working out for them this season. And it's just going to be so exciting to see what they do. Like, are we going to get those more behind the scenes moments? I think it worked for Clare because we really needed to see what was going on in her head to understand why the season was cut short, like he was saying. So I don't know if we're going to get as many with Tayshia. It might be look more like a normal Bachelorette season, but either way, I'm excited for things to get switched up.
Same. I am so excited for Tayshia. What it ends, that pool moment. I mean, I feel like it's going to be such an exciting. The first sentence we hear out of her mouth, everyone in Bachelor Nation is going to collectively gasp and cheer.
Yeah.
Now that she's taking over, though, I think the question that's starting to pop into people's minds is, what will Clare and Dale's presence on the show be? Are we going to like see them pack their bags and ride a sunset and that's it? Are we going to get some updates? When did the cameras like really stop rolling with them? And
Mhm.
according to Rob, their relationship will be chronicled on the rest of the season, but not heavily, because there's no point in the audience watching their honeymoon phase. I loved this statement because I think we all know this, but The Bachelor is not about the easiest, happiest path to love and romance. We want the drama, we want conflict. So to see like tons and tons of time just go to a couple that's basically happy and living their lives and having fun is
Mhm.
not going to ultimately be the most exciting thing for the audience to watch at home. But I'm glad to hear that we're going to see a little bit of, their journey continue. I'm really curious, and I hope after all of this they're still happy in love, and in love
Yeah.
when we get to the end of the season, when we get to the catch up, because they did take a really big leap and ultimately they just know each other that well. So I don't know. That's my little skeptical side. What if Gabby?
Yeah, I mean, even though Claire's time is ending here, I think, their relationship is just getting started if they are still together. So there's so much more to that. And I hope we do get to see a little bit of it. I'm most excited for the after the final rose, where, we get to see them now. It might be a Zoom thing, right? If they can't get them, in person, but where we can actually see them like right here and now in this time, what they're doing, how everything ended up.
100%. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to say the least. Aside from Claire's sort of general season, Rob made some exciting announcements for the future. First of all, we will have a Men Tell All this season. Like you were just saying, Gabby, I don't know if it'll be over Zoom, if it'll be in a studio, you know, what they're going to do bubble-wise to make that safe. But this is going to be quite the Men Tell All. So I think that's going to be totally satisfying for viewers. I know for sure that Bennett won you and I over. You guys in the chat, did you fall in love with Bennett as well in last week's show? Totally great guy, fun guy. We obviously won't be seeing too much more of him with Claire. And Rob said that there is a place for him in paradise. So Bennett has made his mark with producers, to say the least. Speaking of paradise itself, they have a brighter future right now. He basically explained that now that there's a bubble, that we figured out a way to make this safe. We have a better grasp on like protocol and how to protect everyone. He thinks that the future seasons of Paradise, while all of this is going on, are looking way more likely, which is very, very exciting. And let's see, he gave us one more. Matt's season is underway, hopefully with a January 4th premiere date. And Rob said, quote, Matt did something on night one that we've never had happen before. It's not what you think, though. It's really crazy. He went on to say, I feel confident saying Matt James will be the only Bachelor this season. So, Gabby, so many exciting things to look forward to. It feels like The Bachelor is back. We've got them, figured it all out. What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited for Matt James. I mean, of course, Rob would leave us with a never been done before teaser, you know, so we already start getting excited for that one. And, you know, come January, we might still be in quarantine. So I'm always looking for new things to watch on TV. And I think his group of women came out a few weeks or months ago, and it's a whole cast of amazing, diverse women, and I'm just so excited that they're making that a priority now. And, you know, we can hopefully see an awesome love story come to light with him as well.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I am so excited for his season. I think it's going to be really special. Plus, it's set on the East Coast. It's going to be so beautiful and gorgeous to look at. I mean, just so exciting. All right, you guys, we want to get to this chat and see what you guys are thinking. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, because I have to imagine with a season like this and all of these exciting things coming into the future, you guys have some thoughts. So go ahead and get those comments ready. If you have any questions or honestly just burning opinions, we want to hear it all. Oh, let's see. Okay, Jay Jobs, we've got our first one. He says, Rob also confirmed a Men Tell All. Yes, we mentioned that. We are excited about it. I mean, Gabby, I feel like this could be the craziest Men Tell All ever.
Those are always crazy. Actually, I will say, I've personally been to one of the Tell All tapings here in LA, and it was really fun to get to see everybody and hear everything that went on behind the scenes. I think I did like last summer's Bachelor in Paradise, so that was fun. It's even more fun to watch it on TV and to just see everything come to light and to get to know these guys' personalities more. If, you know, they went home pretty early on in the season, we get a little bit more of a taste of them.
Totally.
All right, Cara says, I feel bad for Zach. It was a total misunderstanding. That's so true. I think I mentioned they just needed more communication. Like, it's an awkward moment. Everybody has awkward moments. Like, you know, you just need to do what you got to do to get over it. But I feel for Zach too.
100%. I mean, listen, there are awkward, bad, miskissed moments that people go through all over the place all the time. Imagine it playing out with cameras all around you and the pressure of America watching. Like, it was just a bad moment. It was doomed. It was doomed from the first little misstep.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Deb says she's found what she was looking for. I can see why it would be hard to be pretending for the other guys when she feels that way about Dale. Absolutely, Deb. I mean, listen, she's not an Oscar-winning actress. What is she supposed to do? She likes Dale. I couldn't do it. I mean, could you, Gabby? I don't know how we would even bake it.
No, and she's been waiting for this for so long. Like, if she's found the guy, she's ready to go run off with him for sure.
100%.
Jay Jobs says, is Clare getting a bad edit? That's definitely one of the conspiracy theory talks that, you know, has been going on. It's very true that she might be getting a bad edit, but she is like saying the same things that she's saying. So whether it comes, you know, together in a preemptive way or whether that's exactly how it went down, only the producers will know that.
Totally. Let's see. T. Marie said, regardless of the edits, she's coming across as self-involved and disinterested in the fact that guys have also given up their time. Yes, I think that there is something to be said about, you know, whether it's fair for the producers to sort of break that fourth wall, give those behind the scene moments, kind of put Clare on blast or not. Even in just like her sit down interviews, she's being super upfront about the fact that she only has eyes for Dale. So it is tough. It's tough as a viewer, I think, to go along with her journey when she's telling us straight from herself that she only has eyes for Dale. I don't know. That's maybe just me.
Totally. All right, Nurse Tracy says, do they bring in new men? That's a great question. I don't think anyone has addressed this question yet. I wish Rob would have in this interview. But I think it would be fair to have, you know, the other guys get a shot at dating Tayshia if they so wanted that opportunity. But I also believe that Tayshia has her own, you know, style. And if, you know, she wants new guys to come in, then she totally needs to do that.
Totally. I think we talked about in the recap a little bit, like, how does this work? Like, what if the guys are just so exhausted from the drama they want out? Does she get an equal number to start with? It'll be really, really interesting. Daniel says, sorry, but Clare is way worse than Peter. Listen, you guys, if you have tuned into these lives in the past, you know, I had some thoughts about Peter. Peter exhausted me. I think that a full season of Clare and Dale and the non-attention to the other guys, I would end up in a similar state. But right now, we're only 3 episodes in. Like, I'm just like, whatever. Let's just roll with it. Let's just get Tayshia in here and have some fun.
All right, Nurse Tracy also says, no one is worse than Yosef. He was inappropriate to speak to any woman like that. Absolutely true. We're just glad he's gone now.
Oh my God, 100%. I was so ready to say goodbye. We do not need that kind of negativity. No room for that. Let's see. All right, you guys. So those are all of the comments we have time for today, but we want to know your thoughts. So if you had a comment or a thought that didn't make it on the live, go ahead and just leave it in the comments section because we want to keep this conversation going. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos or future lives. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. You can follow me on socials at Fiona Zaring. And Gabby, where can they find you?
You can follow me at Gabby Ganta.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us. Thank you guys for watching.